and welcome to episode 17 of the HeartSpace podcast with myself, Jasmine, and my beautiful co-host here, Alicia.
Hello, guys. How are we? And thanks, Kaiya, for coming on today. Really excited for this episode.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have you here. So as you can see, guys, we have a very special guest, Kaiya, who is a business coach from Australia, who is empowering women, and she is such an entrepreneur online. You have to follow her on Instagram. She has a lot going on her Instagram page, and we are so excited to have you here and hear your story because, you know, we are living in some crazy times right now. There's this great awakening happening worldwide where people are, you know, waking up to the truth, the corruption, and they're starting to not only learn about the corruption in the world, but who they truly are. And I do believe that there's like this great purge happening in 2022 where people are really stepping into their power. They're doing that inner work, the shadow work and healing. And in your line of work, you must see a lot of that with helping women. So, you know, run us through how you got into your line of work and what you're doing now.
Awesome. Hey, guys, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to share and just have a kiki with the girls. I started off, so basically I'm a life coach. First and foremost, I am a life coach specifically for women. I started on my journey through network marketing, and found very quickly that network marketing, although I did like it, it was fun. It put me in a lot of the places that I needed to be. It also wasn't my jam. My jam was actively helping people out of their traumas. That lights me up. There's nothing more exciting for me than to see a woman shift. The shift from going low and sad and having almost no purpose other than being a mum or being a partner to somebody and having that codependency to fully being able to stand in who she is. In all her authenticity, in her ugly and her beautiful, in her most darkest moments, she is able to accept that and understand that that is what makes her as much as all of the light things. So in my line of work, I've seen a lot of women come from DV backgrounds. A lot of women come from backgrounds where they've had childhood abuse, where they just haven't been taught how to stand for themselves. But only to be shrunk into fitting into society and making sure that you don't piss anybody off, and conforming in ways that we really shouldn't have to, because who we are is enough. Yeah. And if we find people that aren't enough for us, then too bad, so sad, see you later. That's not my problem, that's a you problem, have a nice day. And I honestly feel that more women should feel that they are valuable, because we are.
100%.
We are valuable. And, you know, society, even to this day, tells us that we're not. And I call bullshit. So that's why I do what I do. And
it's so important. It's so important because there's a lot of people walking around with childhood wounds, you know, that inner child that is still hurting, and they don't even realize it. You know, they know that something's wrong, but they need that guidance to steer them into that work, you know, and into those darker places that we kind of just hide away from. And, you know, to have someone guide you like a life coach, like I've even considered it. Like I did a little teaser course where you could kind of trial it out. But at that particular time, financially, I couldn't afford it. But just that alone made me realize this is really cool to have someone in your corner that's outside of your normal circle, just have your back and root for you, you know? So I'm just...
I am my client's biggest fight girl. Like I tell you, I held a women's circle a couple months ago, my first ever kind of women's circle, and I threw in a photo shoot, right, where they could, at the end of this, they could really embrace who they were, and I threw in a photo shoot, and we did some group ones and we did some like nice pretty ones. And then at the end, I'm like, you know what, let's get it off. And we got half naked and took some photos in the middle of a botanical garden.
Why not?
There was 5 of us topless, just getting our picture taken in the middle of a botanical garden, because that's what we felt called to do by the end of it. That's how empowered we felt. That is what that led to. And it was the most beautiful thing. I'm sitting there and I'm screaming at them, just be extra, let your extra out. It's all good.
That's so cool. It's quite empowering, and I think it's hard for a lot of women these days to actually just take it off, be themselves, because I think we have to always be something in someone else's eyes, like in society, as a partner, like you mentioned, as a mother, and to inspire women to do that and just take it off and just be in a photo shoot, be who you are. That is empowering in itself. I love that.
I just want to point out too that it was a male photographer that this happened in front of.
Well, he probably had a good day that day.
It was a male photographer. And, at the start, they were all women who were very whakama. Like, they were very shy. They were very, I'm not doing this. You're not getting me naked, Kaiya. You're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I am. But you will. And they did. But it's again, it's really about embracing who you are on the inside before it can show up externally. Yeah. There is no amount of anything that's happening external to us that will change unless we do it in here first.
100%. And I can relate to what you just said there, because prior to my awakening, so I went through my awakening in 2012 when I started to realize what was going on in the world. But prior to that, I was the most shyest, reserved, introverted person you'd ever meet. Like, I was barely on Facebook. I was even scared to write my opinion in the comment section. Like, I would just read all the comments. Like, I was that person. But learning the truth about the world really woke me up to my power, because it made me realize it's not me that's fucked up, it's the system, and the programming, and the programming we've received from the day we were born. And our parents have been programmed in somewhat too. It's generational programming, and Alicia and I have touched on this in a few episodes actually.
Yeah.
And once you wake up to the truth and you start to go down all these rabbit holes, and you realize, like, okay, it is scary at first. It really is. I remember going through a mourning period especially when you learn about the really darker stuff that is happening, but we won't get too deep into that today. And you go through this mourning period of your old life, but it's necessary to shed those old layers, and it's like a metamorphosis, a huge transformation that happens. And what you're giving to these women, it heals that generational line, like it's gonna empower them and help their children and so forth. So it's so important, it's so necessary, that line of work. And I encourage anyone who is thinking of sorting out a life coach, do so. If you feel like you need that extra help, do it. There's no shame in getting that extra help you need in your corner.
We're not therapists. And I think that's the common misconception, is we're not therapists.
It's good you're highlighting that.
We are people just like you, and 90% of the life coaches that I have had the honor of coming into contact with and being in the circle of and being in that space are all very transparent people. If they're having a hard time, they tell you, I'm having a fucking hard time. You go to a therapist, tell a therapist you're having a hard time. How can I help you today? I just told you I'm having a fucking hard time, mate. Like, what do you mean?
It can be quite robotic, okay?
Yeah.
It can be very
relate
scripted
to that because as like you guys know, I was doing my counselling degree, and there was a lot of things in there that I didn't connect with. I didn't feel it. Here's me as a student, but I'm like, that doesn't seem like the right approach. Like, they talk about, compassion and empathy and non-judgmental and stuff like that, but it feels very textbook rather than life experience. And I guess that's why I wanted to go into counselling, because I have got life experience from my past, which Kaiya and I have spoken about. So, I wanted to bring that forward and inspire to help other people. But, the counselling obviously didn't work out because of the mandate, blah, blah. But in saying that, my dream hasn't stopped. So, like you, Kaiya, I want to help other people too, especially in trauma, because I think people are so broken today. They are so broken, and I feel it. I feel that energy, and it makes me sad, and I just want to heal as many people as possible. But we can't do that. Like you said, we've got to do the inner work ourselves.
We've got to do the inner work first. It all starts with us first, and there is no amount of external validation that will help you. There is no amount of you seeing a therapist and the therapist going, it's going to be okay, and having your friends in the background validate your bullshit stuff that you're putting yourself through. There's no amount of external anything that will change you until you decide to do the work. And what that will mean for you 9 times out of 10 is realizing that, fuck, not everything is exactly how it seems.
Yeah, so true.
Oh my God. That's literally how it happened for me. I speak so much about my life coaching and stuff, but it wasn't until as I said, I was part of network marketing before I entered into any form of life coaching. And I started life coaching because I started to study neuro-linguistic programming. Game changer. For anybody who has ever thought about NLP or doesn't know what it is, go and Google it. It will change your life. So find you a therapist.
I have to say, I can actually vouch for that too. My external supervisor, he was NLP. And I was like, what is that? And then he was, so I'd have to go to him. So he was just my external coach, so to speak, in counselling. And just the whole approach, totally different. I couldn't agree with you more.
Personal.
I'm definitely going to be Googling it after this.
Go and Google it.
You're like, yes, I know what you guys are talking about. Not.
It's a very personal approach. Very, very personal approach. Timeline therapy is amazing. We take you exactly back to your trauma and we get you to deal with it as you are now. Yeah. Not as you as a child and try and make you deal with that. We take you back as an adult to face it as an adult in a safe and constructive way. Absolute game changer. So it wasn't through studying NLP and realizing that our emotions are only a surface of something and everything has layers, right? Yeah. So through doing this and realizing, holy shit, I'm not crazy, so to speak. I'm just different. And different is good. Different should be embraced. But it's not.
No. And that goes back to society and how we put people into boxes and categories, and we grow up with these movies where, we've got the nerds and the jocks, all that programming to create some hierarchy within the system. That hierarchy is, it needs to go. It's all a facade. It is really. And when I
was asked the other day in one of my question links, out of a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a nerd are you? And I'm like, well, what class is someone as a nerd? Do they watch too much TV? Are they on their PlayStation too much? Do they do too much research? Are they really intelligent? I don't have categories for people. I don't have categories for people. Humans are just humans. We are all on a human experience right now. We are all spiritual beings on a human experience. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all
and
it
actually,
is.
our last guest on this podcast said exactly the same thing as you.
Yeah.
And I love that because I believe that too.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm down that road too.
We're all trying to navigate this realm, right? We're all trying to navigate this realm. However, there's some of us that have good intentions, and then there's some of us that have intentions to serve themselves.
Yeah.
And if I'm just going to come out and say it, I'm probably going to look like a racist here, but that's fine with me. Old white men. Old white men is who our system is built to protect.
Mm.
In every capacity.
Yeah, it's true.
In every capacity. And come at me all you like for it. But if we take a step back from our emotions for a second and look at history, who does it serve? Because it sure as hell not me.
It's always been the men in power.
It's not me as a woman. It's not me as a Māori person. It's not me in any capacity. Who it benefits, though, is the men currently in power that dictate to everybody else how to live.
Yeah.
We're meant to be in a democracy, not a dictatorship.
And I'm glad we're going down this route because, you know, in the last couple of years, we've seen this shift with our governments worldwide where they've really put on these draconian measures in place. And, you know, and in terms of the mandates, you know, what was your stance when, you know, the mandates dropped in Australia?
How fucking no. that was my stance. That was my fiance's stance.
And what was your reasoning, hun?
Too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon for me. The research that I was finding was too conflicting to give me a solid answer on whether it was going to benefit me or not. And I find even today, the amount of people that I know that are just sick more. They don't have COVID, they don't have the flu, but they're just more sick.
Yeah.
Since getting shot 1, 2, and 3, like I haven't had any. You know, I've got friends that are nurses, I've got friends that are doctors, and my stance is still the same. Yes, they may have seen a different truth to me, and that's fine. But what I know and what I believe and where I sit today, it's still too soon, and there's still not enough concrete evidence to support everything that they say it can and can't do.
Absolutely. And I'm glad we're having this discussion, and I love that we have this space to do it. And because what me and Alicia were touching on before is we've had so many diverse people here who all have the same stance when it comes to the vaccine. And the media likes to depict that, you know, we're all crazy conspiracy theorists, you know, hippie people that live off the benefit, you know. But here we have today an educated Māori woman, you know, and prior to this interview, we had a guy who was a mortgage broker on, you know, who have come to the same conclusion. And this is why it's so important to have these conversations and to show people that, you know, we're just everyday people that have studied and, you know, have different backgrounds and whatnot, but we've all come to the same conclusion. And it's not crazy. It's not that we're crazy. You know, we've been gaslighted. We've been called every name under the sun. And, you know, it just has to stop. And I think a lot of it is shifting. I do see people that were on the fence now questioning their reality. You know, they've had the shots and they've still contracted the big C, you know.
And it's funny that you should touch on that too, because every single person has a different perspective, right? And for each person, their perspective is their reality. There is no in between for them. There is black and then there's white. There is how I see things and there's how you see things and how I see things. And it's really not like that. You know, scientifically speaking, our brains can't actually tell the difference between what you tell it is real and what is actually happening in front of you. So if we're constantly telling ourselves and being fed the same bullshit day in and day out, what do we start to do?
Believe it.
We start to believe it. It starts to become truth. They're indoctrinating us with everyday bullshit, feeding it to us through the media, through social media. We create walls within our own circles because our opinions are now wrong.
Yeah.
100%.
And I've had that so much with quite a few people. Like I've lost friends.
Yeah. Me too.
Over this.
Yeah.
But then again, I've had people that have sat there since 2020 and watched me be so persistent, and they've come to me saying, like, I admire your passion for this. I'm actually starting to question things now. Like, what is happening? And had messages saying, well, turns out you've been right. And that's not an ego thing. That's not my ego going, haha, I was right. It was just like, shit. Like, because I have questioned myself so many times. I've gone, oh my God, what if I'm actually wrong? And then I was like, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be so glad. I'd be so glad to be wrong. But the proof, the more this continues, it's
becoming way more evident.
100%, 100%. And the more it's pushed, you know, like I have a son who is 8, who had a very troubled start to school because he's ADHD and autistic. So he already doesn't fit the norm.
I've got a son who's ADHD and autistic too, so I completely understand that one.
Yeah. So he goes to a mainstream school here in Australia, and when we were allowed to go back to school, right, after they'd shut all our schools down and we were allowed to go back to school, there was talk of imposing vaccines to children inside schools without parental consent because they were changing the bylaw, which meant that children under the age of 16 did not need our consent to be vaccinated with whatever they wanted to vaccinate them with at school. Now, my school wasn't on the list of schools that had come out. However, I rang the principal and I said, you vaccinate my child, you have to deal with me, and it won't be a vaccine.
And what was his response? Or
her response was, what do you mean? I said, well, this is what I've been hearing, and this is what's come out in the media.
One source of truth, apparently, too.
Yeah. It's come out on the Queensland Education website. I know our school is not on here, but what do you plan to do about it? She goes, I had no idea, Kaiya. She goes, but I promise you that I will not vaccinate your child, or any child for that matter, without parental consent.
Yeah.
And I went, good, because I hope the first thing you do when that comes into play is call me, because I'm pulling my kid out of school.
Yeah, we had the same issue here in New Zealand, but luckily I noticed here in Rotorua in particular, where I'm situated, a lot of the schools adopted a, parental consent form anyway, and I think that's how it should be. Like, even though the government was trying to bypass that, the schools still overstepped that. And, because they would have been dealing with the mob, like the angry parent mob. So, they're better to save their own asses putting something like that in play. And
imagine being a parent in New South Wales when they were told after that your child has been taken to a stadium, a sports stadium, and there was a mass vaccination.
I heard that, yeah. So can you confirm that actually happened? Because I saw that speculating on Facebook, but I wasn't too sure if that actually happened. I have spoken to parents, because I was like, surely not. Surely not.
So I jumped in the comment section and I started PMing parents of students who had actually been vaccinated without parental consent. No, they were not children, like under the age of 10. But if you're under the age of 16 or 16, you're still a child.
100%, yeah.
In my personal opinion, even as 18, 19, you are still a child.
Yeah.
You are still a
child. Because the government says, otherwise, it doesn't make it right. Yeah, you're still very much impressionable and need that guidance at that age. Especially with this generation too. I feel like it's a lot, they're taking a lot longer to catch on to certain things, because we spoke about this in in our chat offline with this generation, and how they're really just degrading, like just the whole education system has been dumbed down. Children aren't being taught to look outside themselves. It's all just cookie cutter within the box.
It's all government agenda. They're conditioning our children. And comes down to government-owned children. This is part of the NWO. It's all playing out. So a big message is you need to protect your tamariki. And I don't have any children, but I've got a younger sister, and they want to touch my sister. Bro, they got another thing going. And also that goes for other people's children. Like, I care about other people's kids too.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, this is all about the children. So,
and I guess it's really important for parents to have these conversations with their children too about the vaccine, so they're able to, speak up for themselves.
Look,
that situation.
My 8-year-old, he's me in a nutshell. He's the Sagittarius version of me. I am a Scorpio through and through. He is my Sagittarius child. Actually, so was my other baby. But anyway, beside the point, my 8-year-old just come out of nowhere to his teacher the other day and said, look, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of these lockdowns. I don't want to wear a mask. I just want to go to school. I've been having to deal with this for 2 years.
Though. That's so cool. Someone needs, and I'm sure these teachers can agree with the children,
And she does. She does. She thinks it's absolute bullshit.
But still, it's happening, Yeah.
It is. It is. And it will continue to happen until it doesn't, right? And when I mean until it doesn't, it means until everybody gets on the same fucking page.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, let's get to 80% dose of vaccine. Can we get to 80% everyone being on the same page, that the government doesn't have our best interest at heart?
And that's what it boils down to.
They don't. People need to start. I want people to start opening their eyes instead of looking at us conspiracy theorists and thinking we are a danger to society. The only threat to us is the people in charge. It's our governments.
To put it like this, right? We have a housing crisis here in our country, as I've heard New Zealand does too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Funny that.
Good on you, Jessica.
We currently live in a caravan in Hard Annex. So I'm sitting in my lounge room right now. That's a built-on attachment to the caravan. Now, I have a family of 5 if I include my staffy, which I will. We've lived in here for 4 or 5 years. Now, our average rental property here where I am is $650 for a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 car house.
Yeah.
The average wage here a week is $1,000. Please do the math for me. When your real estate will not take your application if your rental amount per week is over 30% of your income. Yeah. They dictate to you what you can and can't afford. What?
Yeah, it's like that here. People are struggling.
Yet when we apply for a housing application, we get put on a wait list. And again, call me racist, but we're sistering countries, right? My fiance can come to New Zealand under me as an unemployed Australian with a legitimate child and a legitimate relationship, prove he wants to be in the country for longer than 2 years and get a payment.
Yeah.
Prior to that, if we weren't together and he wanted to come over himself, he would only have to be there for 2 years and prove that he wasn't going anywhere. Get a payment. I've been here for 5 years, have 2 legitimate children, and no matter what I do, this government will not help me until I get citizenship. But that's my fault, apparently, because I should have known that before I moved to Australia.
True.
Right?
It should be mirroring laws, really.
Yeah.
Exactly. However, what if I never planned for my relationship to break down and we get married and then something happens or he dies? Shit! I've now got to go and get citizenship.
Yeah.
That costs $7,500.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And wait 2 years on a residency and be making $54,000 a year consecutively for 2 years before I can apply for that. Now, in my personal opinion, if you can afford that, you don't need a benefit. You don't need Centrelink. You don't need wins.
Yeah.
Yet there's people here of other ethnic backgrounds that come in on a boat with no passport, no identity. They get a housing commission house like that.
Yeah.
They get put on welfare payments like that. Right? Now, there's one lady in particular who's been in housing now for 20 odd years. She's done over $100,000 worth of renovations to this housing commission house and still complains.
Wow.
She has a family. She is the matriarch of her family, and she has her family members at her house every single weekend, and she has over 15 family members that attend her house. But you need a housing commission house, but the single mum out on the street doesn't.
That's really
backwards, it's so backwards.
Tell me again that our government has our best interest at heart.
And there's never any change, it doesn't matter. We've come to learn that, National and Labour here, in particular in New Zealand, they're just two wings of the same bird.
The whole political is a corporation. Australia is a corporation registered like a business.
Yep.
So is New Zealand.
So is New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so is America.
Actually, fun fact, New Zealand is a state of New South Wales. We are under New South Wales, and that was changed, I think.
I didn't know that.
This is the topic that I would like to touch on further down the track. But where was I going with that? Yes, so we are under a corporation. So it doesn't matter who you vote for, because it all is done by design. It is strategically done. The democracy is an illusion.
100%.
You get the choice to vote, but it doesn't matter.
We're still in a dictatorship.
Yeah. And it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. Fact.
Yeah.
This is how it is. That's the blunt truth about it. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Doesn't matter who is running your country. If you are running under that corporation,
it's all the same.
And that's why it all needs to come down. It all just has to be exposed.
It needs to be abolished.
Yeah, and I hope, I still have faith that there is going to be some type of exposure. I really do, because so many people are catching on. We're awake now, and this isn't just New Zealand and Australia. This is, like I said in the opening, worldwide. People are catching on to the fact that their governments aren't working for them. They're working for the puppet masters behind them, aka the UN, the Rockefellers, all those people that have been pulling the strings for generation. 100%. And we've had protests happen here, and that Alicia has mentioned, like, protests are only good for really one thing, is connecting with like minds, but a lot of those protests are controlled too by opposition.
Yeah. Something I learned, I I was going to all the protests, man. Like, I was down in Wellington.
And you feel good about it too, eh?
I watched.
It's just so good because there's a lot of energy that's been there's so much that you keep within, like you can only express so much on social media, and then when it comes to a protest it's like yes. So you're just releasing all the energy and it's so good, and you connect with everybody else. Usually go home and you've lost your voice, but it's worth it. You feel good for standing up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
And that's it, and trying to wake other people up. But as it was mentioned in a podcast, I think 2 podcasts ago, about the escaping the matrix.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't really gotten far with the protests because they are controlled, and that's something I've had to learn all the way through from 2020. And I've sat back and watched. I'm like, what is going on?
What? If I'm honest, that's kind of how I came into it. Was COVID. It was literally the pandemic that I realized it was like, But, I sat here, and even my fiance is, mate, you name a conspiracy and he's on it. Like,
yes.
He knows, like, I something popped up about CERN, and I ran out and I'm like, babe, have you heard about CERN? And he goes, yeah, so this is, and we got talking about it. I'm like, wow, tell me more.
There's so many layers to this awakening too, eh? Like, there's so many frictions in which you're learning that it's just corrupt, like the food industry, the clothing industry.
Even so much so, like, we look into things like, to broaden the spectrum other than governments, we look into things like CERN and what they're doing. And then we go and watch Stranger Things, and they're like, Stranger Things isn't so far-fetched now, is it?
Exactly, yeah. I'm a Stranger Things fan.
I need to still watch that.
It's very telling. It's very telling about, just how government can have underground tunnels, and there's children that they're keeping there, and we've heard all these stories. So yeah, a lot of it is very telling, and it's with the CERN thing, like with that whole portal that opens up, it looks exactly like that, and it's just like that addictive programming right in our faces before it happens.
But it's to recreate the Big Bang. For what fucking reason? Like, for what reason?
Well, we all know, like, well, not all of us, but when you look at the system and the people that are in control, and how a lot of them are very evil, and we've come to learn that a lot of them worship Satan, if we're being very blunt here. And they just want to revert everything. They want to do what God's doing, and that's why they probably want to create some type of Big Bang and, prove that they're gods, and it's
and everything else in between. They want to see also what is beyond the physical touch.
Yeah.
For me and my spirituality, I say leave that shit where it may be. Thanks. Leave it alone.
They already know. They know so much.
Yeah.
They have just reversed everything and steered our direction over here, so we don't go within. So we don't start.
Exactly. Yeah. You look at everything that's censored on social media, everything that's censored through the news. Like, for example, my first and only viral video was on TikTok, and it was getting at how, I don't know if it happened back home or not. There was a lot going on at this time, but we had a truck blockade happen here in Queensland.
Yep.
Now, there were 2 truck drivers that got absolutely ostracized for this event. And it was only 2 truckies. No, there was 150. There was 150 trucks that stopped on our main highway that connects our states.
But I was watching all that stuff. Yeah,
I was front and center with that. I made friends with the blokes. Like, anywho, it became no longer a person-to-person thing that was transmitting the virus. It was the truck drivers that didn't know they had it coming through the states.
That's right. Yeah, that's a narrative they were going with.
Yeah. So I put a video up, and I said, funny how, like, I basically said, funny how that there was absolutely news whatsoever about major spreaders through truck drivers until the blockade. My video went spastic. I had so many people on there. You're just another this, you're just another that, you're just another this, you're just not. And I'm just like, be what it may, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There was no reporting whatsoever until the blockades.
Yeah.
And now they're going to try and segregate the community from the truck drivers and say that was only 2 truck drivers that were involved. We had a politician turn around on camera, on the fucking camera, and tell one of those blokes that she was more than happy to pay for all of the fines that he was about to cop, because she stood with him and his message, which was no more mandates, because he couldn't actually get the vaccine. His doctor told him no.
Wow.
Because he had heart conditions. His doctor told him no.
That's a good doctor, because
Yeah.
my friend has medical conditions and she was still told by a doctor, just take it. I'm just like, that's so negligent.
I had a family member, just don't take this one or this one, but this one's fine. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, like,
but that's how brainwashed people have become, you know?
Yeah.
And the news, you got to realize these people have been manipulating us and lying to us for years. They're master manipulators, and somewhat they've been ciphering our energy. You know, the human, us, we're powerful manifestors, right? And, you know, the fact that they program us through the movies and stuff, they're using us, they've hijacked our consciousness to put these images in our head through the movies and every other thing in between, like the music industry. And, you know, we're visualizing it, we're bringing their plan to life. So that's when we have to kind of shift our conscious energy away from that and be more selective with what we take in consciously, because it is way more bigger than what we've been taught, you know, like our consciousness is like our superpower.
Absolutely.
And I feel like 2022, right? 222s are all about freedom. You know, if we're going into angel numbers, if we're talking about that briefly.
I'm big on the angel numbers.
If we look at 2022, right, our 222s, they're all the year for freedom. And me personally, I believe that the birth of freedom happens through unlocking our own codes, unlocking our own subconscious, and really bringing that to light and dealing with that instead of pushing it down and acting as if it's not here, because it is.
Yeah.
Even though you're not looking at it and you're not dealing with it, doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just going to manifest itself in a different way.
Yeah. 100%.
Until you look at the problem. Where I sovereignty, 110%. My body, my choice, every single day. And it doesn't matter whether that's for a mandate for vaccines or whether that comes down to abortion.
Yeah.
But again, that whole topic there itself directly, whether men want to accept it or not, and I don't care what kind of man wants to come at me and go, it's not all men. Like, I'm not talking to you, shush. I'm talking to the men that think they can justify telling a woman to go and get an abortion because he doesn't want to wear contraceptives. Shh. Go get a vasectomy then. Like, if it's so easy for you to tell me to go and get an abortion, you go get the snip and then we'll have a chat.
So you wanted to touch on the masculine and feminine energy and that balance, because I'm quite interested in this as well. So can you tell us more about that?
I think and this is all my personal opinion, but what I've found working collectively with coaches, with other women, and looking at everything that's going on inside our countries right now, we're working in very strict, rigid structure. That is a very masculine way. And that doesn't mean to say that men, it's a very manly way of doing things. Everything has a masculine and a feminine energy. And a masculine is our protector. The masculine is the structure, the force, it has to be, you know, a certain way. It has to be all in alignment. Whereas our feminine side to things. I think if we tapped more into that, more into the flow, more into the, okay, things happen, we change, we pivot. And in that moment, that's where our growth happens. We're not pivoting right now. We're just repeating history. So we're not breaking the cycle. We're tuning into what's always been done, which has always been the masculine way of doing things. And it's always been from the wounded masculine. What can I get from this?
Yeah.
What can I get from this? What am I going to get out of it? You know, it's very ego. Whereas if we can strip that back and we can come from a place of serving ourselves and our peers, our people, our brothers, our sisters, because we're not different. You know, we're not all different from each other. We are all one person. And if we can see that and get in the collective with that, great change will happen. But in order for us to go from that to this, we need to see the meat in the middle. And if we aren't willing to see that there's another side to how we're being, we're going to be stuck in this constant cycle.
Things are very unbalanced too within the masculine and feminine energies too. So it's getting back that correct balance, because now we've got into a point where, and I love it, women should feel empowered and you know, independent. But then what is also being promoted is, oh, I don't need a man, I can get it myself. And it's just like, well, sometimes you do, you know, like that's one extreme or the other. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there should be more of coming together and men kind of being able to explore their emotions.
And this is the problem, right? The feminine energy, the feminine cannot and will not show herself to a wounded masculine, which is exactly what's happening. Our feminine can't come through enough with just the small amount of us that are there, because there's too much masculine wounded energy going on over here that we don't need. And as we touched on earlier, right, it all comes back to what we're willing to look at, how deep we're willing to go. If we're not willing to see that there's a problem, there's not a problem. But there is. And nothing's ever going to change. And I think the only thing that can help us to actually get to where we need to be, let women take over. Like, if I'm honest, if I'm completely honest, find a woman who knows what she wants and won't stop. Because it's in that power that she will accept the good and the dark. It'll be what it'll be. And we will find a way to move forward. Right now, we're run, and this goes across the board. This is our entire tier, right? We're entirely run by men who are disconnected.
Oh, totally.
That doesn't affect me. That doesn't affect me. That doesn't affect me. Well, it does.
They don't see the bigger picture, men. A lot of people, they can't seem to connect those dots.
No, not at all.
Tunnel vision.
Not at all.
Of them. I shouldn't man bash here, but you know, there are.
And like, like I said, it's a whole nother not all men situation. You know, it is what it is, and it goes across the board for everybody. You know, with the way things are going right now, it's only teaching people to become more and more entitled. But what about me? But what about me?
We're all everyone needs to be validated too. Everyone needs to be validated. It's like, no, you know,
validate yourself. It comes from within. Yeah, honestly. And that's the journey I'm on. And it's great. Yeah. It's great.
That's us. Like, that's my message. If you can't validate you and you're still looking at everything externally, you're never going to be happy. You're always going to fall victim to some bullshit that's going on outside of yourself. There's no if, buts, or maybes. You're always going to be insulted. You're always going to be offended. You're never going to be happy. You're always going to be triggered.
Actually, before we wrap this up, let's touch on your experience you had with having a post removed from social media. I think this is important.
Yeah. let's do this.
For everybody that doesn't follow me, I put a post up on my Instagram and it comes through to my Facebook, and I had a particular woman comment on this photo. And I was naked inside this photo, and my nipples were covered with a caption that was pretty much saying, growth happens when you choose to let it happen. And I got told I was degrading myself. A little backstory. I'm an ex-stripper of 9 years. I've done a lot worse for a lot less. Let's just say that. And I'm not ashamed of it. You know why? Because that's an experience that's helped shape me.
Exactly.
All that negativity does is harvest the mentality that we need to look and act and be a certain way. And if we don't, you don't fit in. Well, I'm not trying to, for starters. My biggest motto is, if I'm too much, go find less.
Well, that's the thing. If people
and I embrace that myself.
If people have a problem, they can always remove themselves from the page, but they're so entitled
they
to tell you, how you should be doing things.
It really does say more about you as a person than it does the person that you're criticizing.
100%. Yeah.
You know, that's your mentality. That's, if I'm triggering you so much, go do the work.
Yeah.
That's your quote. I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
You know, if something that I post triggers you enough for you to open your mouth and have an opinion that's so negative, go and do the work, because your energy is not needed here. I got enough of my own.
Had you had any other engagements with her prior to her doing that comment, or was she just out of the blue, like popped up like a troll?
This person, you wait. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? This particular person has actually spoken to me about life coaching before.
Oh, what? Crazy that she came out with that comment though. Like, and have you been posting images like that prior to that particular
I've got an image where I am completely naked and it's from the back.
Yeah.
You can see crack and all. Like,
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, I think they're beautiful.
I do too.
I've posted, like I said, I've done more than that. And that can be taken in however anyone wants to use their imagination. No, I've never offered sex for money, just to throw that out there, guys. Just to throw that out there. But I've posted a lot more revealing photos. I have 2 boys at the end of the day, and when they come and they're like, oh my God, Mum, why are you posting that on the internet? I'm going to say, because I felt cool to, and because it's not up to anybody else to sexualize my body. Yeah, I'm hot. So what?
I've got a friend who's a photographer and she only takes nude pictures, and she'll take the photos of you nude so you're comfortable, you know. So I think it's beautiful, and she just wants people, and she gets you from flattering angles, you know, like, or within nature, immersed within nature. And that's why I thought when I saw your picture, it reminded me so much of her work. I was like, that's beautiful, you know.
I'll post another one. I'll post another one, but there was a group of us that actually did that photo shoot. I think there was like 9 or 10 of us, and we just looked like mermaids naked sitting on a rock. It's the best. It's the best.
That's so cool.
It's the best.
I want to do that.
I want to be naked with a group of girls now.
Come. I'll come home and I'll hold an event back home. There you go.
Right. Because it'll be nice to meet a person. Do you know, this is so buzzy. Like, I've never even met Jazz in person, in the physical.
Yeah.
And you and me, like, we've been following each other on TikTok since last year. And this is how we connected.
Once that energy connects, though, and you find your people, There is nothing that you could do or say that would make the people that are meant to be in your life fall away. Yeah. It doesn't matter how too much you want to be, or how emotional you want to be, how difficult you want to be. The people that are in your life will stay in your life, and that goes the same for your opinions with masks and fucking vaccines.
Yeah.
And I think that's my ultimate message for absolutely everybody that sits back and listens to this podcast is be choosy with who you give your energy to, because not everyone deserves it. And just the people who are meant for you will stay with you, and those who aren't will fall away in some form or another.
That's a great way to end this conversation too. Was there another question you wanted to ask, Alicia?
No, I think she just summed it up. I was going to ask you that. So no, it's been really great having you here on this episode. The energy has been great. As I know, like people that watch this through their screen, and no, it's been really nice to connect with you and actually see you in not the physical, but video chat. It's actually nice. Hopefully, when you do come back home, we will be able to connect in person.
Oh, and we're going to stay connected on this journey anyway.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
And one thing I always look out for. Cool.
I'm here to bring the HeartSpace podcast to the world. So let's do it.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate you so much, sis. And you know, one thing that confirms like that I'm on the right track with people is like angel numbers start popping up, and I notice in our chats like just the timing of things, little angel numbers are popping up.
Yeah,
like, yeah, this is meant to be.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love it. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I feel extremely humbled. This is my first ever interview on anything like this, so I'm incredibly grateful, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're most welcome, and we're so grateful that you made the time here today and to hear your story, because it's so important to keep these conversations going. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who tuned into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments what you thought about this conversation today, and also make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button and show some love here.
All right. Bye,
guys.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Bye.